After being betrayed, she had an incredible first night with a stranger, revealed he's a CEO. Sarah stared at the bar menu as if it held the secrets to life. Betrayal weighed on her heart like an anchor, dragging her into a sea of doubt. Her boyfriend, the man she thought would be her forever, had shattered her trust. The texts had appeared like daggers, cutting through the thin veil of their relationship, leaving her sinking in a pit of heartbreak. As a devoted single mother, juggling a job as a waitress and endless responsibilities, the night was supposed to be a brief escape, not a reminder of her crumbling life. She couldn't help but wonder if she still had worth, if anyone could ever love her again. "Let's drink to forgetting, babe," Jenna nudged her, a whirlwind of energy and spontaneity. Jenna's laugh sparkled above the chatter, a promise of joy amidst the chaos. Sarah glanced up from the menu, feeling the warmth of friendship kick in. Maybe just one night, maybe just one drink. The bar pulsed with laughter, the kind you only find in a vibrant Chicago neighborhood, where music and soul intertwined. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the rich sense of bourbon and goodwill. Before long, laughter spilled between them, the sound washing over her like a soothing balm. They found a table near the stage where a local band strummed soulful tunes that vibrated deep within her. With each sip, Sarah felt the burdens lift a little more. And then she saw him, Jack, with eyes like stormy seas and a smile that could brighten even her darkest nights. He leaned against the bar, radiating an effortless charisma. "Hey there, mind if I join?" he asked, his voice smooth like silk. Sarah surprised herself as she nodded, laughter bubbling out, eager to share the warmth and pain that usually sat silent. She confessed her dreams of becoming a chef, fingers fiddling nervously with her bracelet. Jack shared stories of his humble beginnings, the steps he took to achieve success that felt as distant as a dream. Each word he spoke wrapped around her heart. She was suddenly aware of how long it had been since she felt seen. This felt good. She laughed, the kind of laughter that started in your belly and lifted you up. Just as she began to believe in a different kind of future, a familiar face broke the moment. "Sarah, wow, didn't know you were here." The voice belonged to a coworker who had clearly been at the bar too long. "Oh, did you know Jack's a CEO?" In an instant, sharp realization cut through Sarah's growing light. Panic sprang up like a flame, scalding her heart. A CEO? Her stomach twisted. Wasn't he just a story? But now, the gap between their worlds felt like an unbearable chasm. Tension filled the air, replacing the warmth she had just begun to embrace. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's brows furrowed as he sensed the shift. "Hey, it doesn't change who I am," he insisted, his voice low. "We all face battles, remember?" Sarah's heart raced as doubts swirled in her mind. Could she really connect with someone from such a different world? He was building empires while she was just trying to survive. As her walls erected themselves, she felt terrified, yet wrestled with the whisper of possibility. The clock's soft tick echoed against the backdrop of lively chatter. Moments stretched as their connection battled against her fear of opening up again. Would she choose to guard her heart or dare to leap, trusting in something that felt impossible? Just as Sarah resolved to step into the unknown, she realized she was standing at a precipice. The night hung heavy with choices, waiting for her. Had she found a way to rewrite her story, or would she slip back into the shadows of her heartache? The air thickened with uncertainty as Sarah weighed her options. Jack's intense gaze bore into her, almost pleading. She could sense the realness in him, a stark contrast to the world her ex-boyfriend had dragged her through. Was tonight a fluke? A moment meant only for escape? Or could it be the beginning of something different, something real? "Look," Jack said, his voice firm yet soft, "I'm just a guy who enjoys a good conversation. I'm no different than you or anyone else here." He gestured around the bar, highlighting the ordinary faces surrounding them, the laughter, the camaraderie, each soul navigating their own storms. His words pierced through Sarah's haze. Maybe it was time to let go of the shadows. A small part of her whispered that she could take a chance. "Okay," she breathed, the word fluttering from her lips, uncertain, yet filled with tentative hope. "Let's talk." The connection sparked between them again like fireworks, illuminating the darkness that had clouded her heart. They dove deeper into conversations, peppered with laughter and shared glances, as if the world outside had all but faded away. As they spoke about dreams and fears, Sarah felt cracks forming in the walls she had built around herself. But just as she began to embrace this freeing moment, Jenna returned from the restroom, her exuberance an unwelcome guest. "You two are getting cozy," she exclaimed, leaning in to share the joke. Sarah rolled her eyes, feeling a mix of annoyance and gratitude. She didn't want to share this moment, but Jenna did care for her. "Yeah, cozy," Sarah said with a soft smirk, her eyes flickering to Jack, who just held her gaze. She felt a rush, a sense of daring in admitting the budding attraction. Jenna leaned closer, a knowing expression dancing on her face. "Just remember, Sarah," Jenna teased lightly, "CEOs can come with a lot of baggage. Don't fall too hard." The words stung a little, the reminder of her past urging her to tread carefully. Sarah brushed it off with a laugh, though the truth nestled uncomfortably in her mind. Jack tilted his head, watching her thoughtfully. "Baggage? We all have it, don't we? The key is to find someone who helps you carry it." His words were like a soothing balm, resonating with Sarah in a way that both frightened and thrilled her. What if he was right? "Sarah, listen," he continued. "I don't want to overwhelm you. I just grabbed an opportunity to connect because I genuinely felt something." Her breath hitched. In the last few months, she had built walls thick enough to protect her from the world, but here was Jack, inviting her to lay her armor down. But what if, she trailed off, biting her lip, what if she really did fall for him? Just then, a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of rowdy friends stumbled in, laughter and shouts echoing throughout the bar. Sarah's heart skipped with the jolt of disruption, diverting her thoughts. The moment of potential connection shattered under the weight of reality. In that quick shift, she felt vulnerability wash over her once more. Could she walk this tightrope between fear and a leap of faith? As she glanced back at Jack, she saw the understanding in his eyes, tempered with a trace of eagerness. "Ready for anything?" he asked, an edge of playfulness returning to his voice. It was an invitation, a challenge that turned the tension electric once again. Sarah inhaled deeply, caught in a swirl of emotions. What lay ahead? Would she step forward or retreat back into her well-fortified heart? As the music throbbed and the bar buzzed with energy, Sarah found herself at a crossroads once more. Tonight could change everything, or nothing at all. With her heart pounding faster than before, she made her choice. "Let's see where this goes," she declared, narrowing the gap between them once more. Jack's smile widened, a blend of surprise and delight on his face. But as the laughter and noise continued to swell around them, a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. Would she embrace the risk, or would the ghosts of her past cling too tightly? With the weight of life's choices pressing down, Sarah felt the night shift once more, leaving her breathless with anticipation. What awaited her in the next moment? The laughter from the rowdy group filled the bar, cutting through the moment they had just shared. Sarah felt herself pulled out of the intimate space with Jack, the warmth between them disrupted. She glanced around as the energetic voices surrounded them, friends celebrating, reveling in life's little victories, while she stood still in this bubbling sea of noise. "Do you want to get out of here?" Jack asked, leaning in slightly, his breath warm against her ear amidst the chaos. The question sent a thrill down her spine, instilling a rush of excitement coupled with a flicker of anxiety. Where would they go? What would happen next? This wasn't the plan, but wasn't it exactly what she needed? A break from routine, a chance to explore this new connection without any distractions. "Yeah, let's go," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, yet resolute. As Jack slid his hand around hers, she felt a jolt of energy pass between them. It was a small gesture, but monumental in many ways. It felt safe, inviting, like a promise of something better on the horizon. They navigated through the crowd, laughter and chatter surrounding them as they headed for the exit. The chill of the night air hit Sarah as they stepped outside, the bar's warmth fading behind them. The mood shifted, and suddenly it felt like they were living in a bubble of anticipation and possibility. Jack turned to her, a playful grin on his face. "Where to?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Maybe a walk?" Sarah suggested, and the sentence hung in the air, a tentative promise wrapped in the thrill of the unknown. "Lead the way," he replied, following into step beside her as they wandered onto a quieter street, the city lights shimmering like stars scattered across the asphalt. As they walked, they fell back into conversation, the kind that felt easy, unforced. She learned that Jack had built his company from the ground up, pouring everything he had into it. The way he described his journey brought life to his words, and she found herself captivated, hanging on every detail. It was clear how passionate he was about what he did. "I just love building something that can make a difference," he said, and Sarah could see it in his eyes, the sincerity that glimmered there. It stirred something in her, a desire she thought she'd lost in the wreckage of her past. "Do you ever worry about losing yourself in that passion?" she dared to ask, her heart racing as she ventured deeper. Jack looked at her, considering her question. "Every day," he admitted, "but I think finding balance is key. It's easy to become consumed, but it's worth it to find something, someone, who grounds you." His words resonated in her, echoing what she felt inside. She had been so lost in her past relationship that she had forgotten how it felt to be grounded, cared for, cherished. "Jack, she started, but paused as apprehension squeezed her heart. This was all new. What if she was stepping too far, too fast? "Hey," he said gently, sensing her hesitation. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to process everything." "Take your time," he said, stopping to gaze into her eyes as if he could read her thoughts. "I'm in no rush. I don't want to push you, but I want you to know I'm here." His steady gaze melted away her trepidation bit by bit. Perhaps this was the moment to open herself up, to be vulnerable. Perhaps she could breathe again. "I want to be honest," she finally said, taking another leap of faith. "I've struggled to trust, to let people in." A soft understanding washed over Jack's expression. "But you're here with me now," he pointed out, his tone reassuring. "That's something." Before she could respond, they reached a small park at the end of the street, illuminated by twinkling fairy lights strung along the trees. Jack pulled her gently from the path onto the grass, and in that moment, the world outside faded away. "Let's sit," he said as they found a bench. Sarah felt her heart swirl with hope, longing, as she took in the serene scene. "Isn't this nice?" Jack smiled, his eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lights above them. "Yeah, it really is," she admitted, feeling a warmth bloom inside her chest. Jack turned to face her fully, and the air thickened again with a promise, like a whisper of all that could unfold. He brushed back a strand of hair that had fallen across her face, the gentle touch sending shivers down her spine. "Sarah, he began, but just then something flickered past her vision. Her pulse quickened as she turned, her heart racing. Was that her ex, Paul, standing across the park? Was he watching? The moment froze, tension crackling in the air. What would she do now? Would she get swept back into a past that almost broke her? Sarah felt the weight of choice bearing down on her once more, the stakes raised higher than ever before. The world around Sarah blurred for a moment as her eyes locked onto Paul. He stood across the park, his silhouette framed by the soft glow of the fairy lights, looking out of place and time. The joy from moments before began to slip away, replaced by a creeping sense of dread. What was he doing here? Sarah? Jack's voice broke through her haze, his hand squeezing hers gently. His touch felt grounding, solid. She turned back to him, the concern in his eyes piercing through her turmoil. I think that's my ex, she stammered, her heart racing even faster. Paul. Jack's expression shifted, from warmth to careful understanding. Are you okay? No, I don't know. Panic clawed at her voice. The flood of memories, arguments, heartbreak, silent treatments came rushing back. It feels like he's always there, hovering in some shadow, ready to destroy what little peace I'm trying to find. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, anger and fear mixing inside her. This was supposed to be a fresh start, not a confrontation with the past. Do you want to talk to him? Jack asked gently, though she could tell he hoped she wouldn't. No. The word came out sharper than intended, but she didn't care. No, I don't want to go back there. To him. He nodded slowly, processing her plea. Then let's not. We can walk or go somewhere else. He leaned slightly closer, his presence a quiet shield against her worries. Sarah glanced back at Paul, who still stood there, his gaze unwavering, like a ghost unwilling to let her fully live. Just give me a moment. She slipped her hand away from Jack's grasp, needing a brief reprieve to gather her scattered thoughts. Sarah, Jack's voice was soothing, yet firm. You're stronger than you think. You don't have to let him dictate how this night goes. The certainty in his words settled over her, a protective blanket wrapping around the vulnerability she felt. She took a breath, steadying herself as she remembered why she had come out tonight. Okay, she said finally, looking at Jack, her heart still fluttering with uncertainty. Let's just walk. They began to stroll along the path, a silent agreement forming between them. It was like stepping away from a dark cloud and into a warm beam of light. The chatter of the park faded into the background, drowning out the noise of her past. With every step, she felt the tension lift, leaving only the thrill of possibility. So tell me, what do we do in the face of uninvited ghosts? Jack asked, breaking the silence with a light-hearted tone. I guess we keep walking, she suggested, managing a smile that felt real this time. Exactly, he grinned back. And if anyone asks, we're just two adventurers making our way through the wilds of the city. Sarah chuckled, a laugh bubbling up from somewhere deep and genuine. It transformed the looming dread into something manageable as they forged ahead, her past fading further into the background. She felt the warmth of Jack's presence beside her, a constant anchor in the storm. But just as her laughter echoed, she saw Paul approaching. The way he walked, confident and unyielding, sent a jolt of raw fear through her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she stood her ground. "Sarah, wait!" Paul called out, his voice cutting through the laughter of the park. She looked at Jack, her heart racing again. Would she let him confront her? Would she fall back into the familiar cycle of pain? "Stay with me," Jack murmured, his hand finding hers again, fingers interlacing, steady and strong. In that moment, she didn't know what to do. Did she face the past, or did she step into something new? The tension in the air thickened, the choices all crashing in on her. And as Paul reached them, the question hung heavy between them. Would this be a moment of confrontation or transformation? The answer loomed uncertain, and a knot of anxiety tugged at her heart. What would happen next? Sarah's breath hitched as Paul drew closer, his face a mask of determination, and even now, a hint of arrogance. Memories stabbed at her like sharp daggers. Names called, promises broken, tears shed. She could almost hear the echoes of their shared laughter, now twisted into something bitter. "Sarah," he said again, this time softer, though the weight of their shared history hung between them. Paul," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Jack's grip was reassuring, grounding her in the moment, despite the tempest rising inside her. "What are you doing here?" she added, searching his eyes for answers that she wasn't sure she wanted. "I wanted to talk," he said, glancing at Jack, who stood close beside her, "in private." "No," the word tumbled out before she could filter it. "You don't get to decide that anymore." Paul's eyes narrowed, stubbornness flaring in his expression, but she noted a flicker of hesitation. He was clearly taken aback. Jack stepped slightly forward, forcing Paul to back up a bit, an unspoken barrier forming. "She's not interested in talking to you, man." His voice was calm but firm, the protector she didn't know she needed. "This isn't your business," Paul shot back, irritation lacing his tone. "It is when it involves someone I care about," Jack replied. The warmth in his eyes remained locked on Sarah, urging her to find her strength. "Care about?" Paul scoffed, a mocking smile creeping across his face. "You barely know her." Sarah's pulse quickened. "That doesn't mean that you know me either. You don't get to play games with me again, Paul. I'm done." She realized then that every shake of her voice mirrored the growing resolve within her. It was as though she was shedding a heavy cloak, one she had worn for far too long. The crowd in the park continued to bustle about, unaware of the emotional war unfolding just a few feet away. Beautiful couples laughed, families shared ice cream, yet here she was in a moment that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Paul hesitated, perhaps sensing the shift in her energy. "You can't just walk away from everything we had," he said, desperation creeping in. "Everything we had? You mean all the hurt you caused?" She felt the heat bloom in her chest, fueling her words. "I'm not your pawn anymore. I won't play your game." Jack squeezed her hand gently, his support swallowing any lingering self-doubt. "Let's go, Sarah," he urged, turning slightly. Sarah considered it for a heartbeat, then let the anger subside. She didn't need to resolve anything with Paul tonight. She needed to protect her own heart. "You can't ignore me forever," Paul called as they turned away, but there was no bite to his words now, only weariness, as if he finally understood what he had lost. "We'll see," she called back, over her shoulder, feeling more liberated with each step. The path opened before them like a promise. She brushed past the crowd, the laughter and cheerful sounds blending into a soothing hum. "Are you okay?" Jack asked softly, his concern lingering in the air. "Yeah, I am." The truth echoed in her heart, a budding realization that she could reclaim her voice. "Good, because it'll take more than that to scare you off, right?" he teased, trying to lighten the mood. She laughed, the sound rich and unencumbered, relief washing over her. Right. But even as they walked on, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. The confrontation with Paul had opened a door she was hesitant to enter fully. "Jack," she started, hesitating as they approached a quieter spot in the park. "What if he comes back? Then we face him together," Jack assured her, his eyes steady with unwavering support. As they moved on, she could feel the air shift. Something was brewing beneath the surface. Sarah glanced up at the stars twinkling above, a blanket of light in the night sky, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of hope. "What if tonight is just the beginning?" she mused aloud, the words startling her as they flowed out. Was she ready for more than just walking away from the past? Jack smiled, mischief dancing in his eyes. "Then let's make it an adventure." What awaited them next? The thrill of the unknown pulled at her, beckoning her to dive deeper into whatever this was. Something new, something hopeful. And as the park shimmered around them, Sarah realized she was no longer just avoiding shadows. She was stepping boldly into the light. But would that type of bravery transform her life? "Let's keep moving," she proposed, her heart racing with expectation. So they did, unaware that the night still held more surprises, and Sarah couldn't help but wonder, who was the enigmatic CEO that Jack kept mentioning? Would she discover something even more unexpected in the unfolding night? As they strolled through the park, the moonlight draped over them like a soft veil. Sarah could feel something shift within her, like starting a new chapter in a book she was finally ready to read. Jack walked beside her, and with each step, the laughter of the couples, the children's giggles, and the splash of ice cream fell behind them. "Tell me more about this CEO," she said, curiosity sparking in her voice. "What's he like?" Jack chuckled lightly, a warmth blooming in his smile. "Oh, he's a character, that's for sure. Confident, ambitious, sometimes a bit intimidating." "Intimidating," Sarah echoed, her brows raising. "That sounds intriguing." "It can be," Jack replied, tilting his head slightly, amusement twinkling in his eyes. "But he's also got this amazing charm. It's like he's always pulling you into his world, and I'd be lying if I said you don't get swept up in it." They paused. At a small fountain, water cascading in rhythms that matched the flutter in Sarah's stomach, she leaned against the cool edge, watching the ripples dance in the light. "And how do you know him?" "We used to work together at a startup," Jack explained. "Somehow he graduated into this CEO role. Knows how to make things happen." Her mind danced with the possibilities. A powerful man? Wasn't that just what she needed to steer clear of her past? Yet the thrill of stepping into his orbit felt intoxicating. "What's his name?" she asked. "Ethan," Jack said, drawing it out, the name hanging in the air like a spell. Ethan Ward. A shiver ran down her spine. The name struck a chord, flipping open old memories like flipping through a well-worn photo album. She remembered hearing her friends mention him at parties, always in awe of his success and his intriguing charm. What was she getting herself into? "Does he know you're coming?" Sarah asked, her tone hesitant. "He has no idea," Jack grinned, mischief written all over his face. "I thought it'd be a fun surprise. We haven't caught up in ages." A sudden weight settled on her, a cocktail of excitement and anxiety. Did she want to meet this powerful stranger? Part of her screamed to run the other way, to cage herself in security. But there was another part, the one that felt alive tonight, that urged her forward. As they moved on, the music from a nearby band began to drift through the air, inviting broken moments of spontaneity. "Come on, let's dance!" Jack's excitement was contagious, totally different from the heaviness that had marred their earlier confrontation with Paul. In a second, they were lost in the rhythm of the night. Sarah twirled, her laughter blending with the music, each moment easing the tension that still hung over her like a forgotten cloud. The fear of Paul dimmed under the glow of new potential. She was no longer a prisoner of her past, but rather, she was the architect of her future. "I'm glad you're here," Jack said, pulling her closer as the tempo shifted. "I've always thought you were meant for more than what you think you deserve." The sincerity in his words wrapped around her heart. She let herself drown in his gaze, recognizing an unwavering spirit that promised safety. "Do you really think so?" she asked, the vulnerability sneaking through surprisingly. "Absolutely," he replied earnestly. "You have so much light to share, Sarah. Don't let anyone dim that light, especially someone like Paul." In that moment, a jolt of determination coursed through her again. If tonight was the beginning, she wouldn't waste it feeling afraid. The rhythm swirled around her, and she found herself caught in the ebb and flow of this new chapter. But as the music swayed, a flicker of movement caught her eye just beyond the edge of the crowd. A sharp suit, polished shoes. Ethan? Her heart raced at the thought. What, he really here? And if so, how would she react? "Jack," she whispered, eyes wide, "I think he's here." Was this the night that would change everything? The prospect filled her with both exhilaration and dread, but deep down, she knew one thing for certain. She was ready for whatever came next. The fluttering beats of her heart matched the pulse of the music, and Sarah's mind raced. Jack narrowed his eyes, following her gaze. When his face lit up, she could see it, the recognition, the thrill. "There he is!" Jack shouted, enthusiasm bubbling over. "Ethan!" Ethan stood a few yards away, exuding confidence in his sleek suit, looking every bit the part of the high-powered CEO Jack had described. The crowd seemed to part for him, drawn by a magnetic force. He scanned the area, and when his gaze landed on them, a smile broke across his face, as if he had found something, or someone, he had been searching for. Panic surged through Sarah, threatening to choke her laughter. "What do I do?" she whispered to Jack, her voice barely audible. "Just be yourself," Jack reassured her, squeezing her hand, grounding her in the moment. "You've got this." Then they stepped closer, and Ethan's smile widened. "Jack, great to see you." He embraced Jack and then shifted his attention to Sarah, his expression instantly softening. "And who's this lovely lady?" Sarah felt a warmth flood her cheeks, unsure if it was from the music or Ethan's intense gaze. "I'm Sarah," she managed, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. "Sarah," he repeated, savoring the name. "You must be the surprise he was talking about. Nice to meet you." His invitation felt genuine, even in the chaos of the crowded park. "Likewise, I've heard a lot about you," she said, trying to keep her composure. The thrill of the evening, that cocktail of nerves and excitement, had shifted gears. What had once seemed intoxicating now felt like a rush that set her on edge. "This guy," Ethan nodded at Jack with a grin, "is great at digging up stories. What did he tell you? That I'm a ruthless overlord running a corporate empire?" Sarah laughed, the tension melting slightly. "Actually, I think he called you charming before the ruthless part." Ethan chuckled, a charming laugh that could melt the coolness of the night. "I should keep my secrets better." He looked at her with genuinely interested eyes. "But really, what brings you out tonight?" "Trying to break free from the past," she said, surprising even herself. The words flowed freely, like water from the fountain nearby. "Just enjoy some spontaneity." "I think we could all use a little spontaneity in our lives," Ethan replied with a hint of intrigue. He paused, assessing her. "Life's too short to play it safe. How about we make tonight unforgettable?" A thrill shot through her, igniting a flame of possibility. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, her heart racing at the daring twist this conversation had taken. Ethan leaned closer, his voice dropping an octave. "Let's dance. Forget the world around us. Just for a few minutes." He extended his hand, palm up, waiting for her. Jack's encouraging smile urged her on. Sarah hesitated for a brief second, then took his hand, feeling the warmth radiate from his grasp. The world around her dissolved as he led her to the dance floor, where laughter and music ebbed and flowed. As they swayed alongside each other, lost in the music, Ethan's presence was electric. He moved with confidence and grace, and Sarah found herself mirrored in that strength. Could this moment really be for her? She allowed herself to let go, every twirl and turn welcoming liberation. But deep in her mind, shadows of her past flickered like unwelcome guests. As her body swayed with Ethan, she felt the fears of Paul clawing at her thoughts. What if he discovered her here? What if this was all too much, too soon? The rhythm slowed, and Ethan's gaze seemed to pierce through her uncertainty. "You okay?" he asked softly, concern replacing the playfulness. "I'm fine," she whispered, but her vulnerability bared itself. Was she really ready to reshape her world? Just then, across the glimmering lights, she caught a familiar figure watching from the edge of the crowd. It was Paul, and the heat of his glare sent a shiver down her spine. The music faded into the background as the weight of a looming confrontation pulsed in the air. What was she really ready to face? "Sarah?" Ethan's voice broke through, an anchor in the chaos. "What's wrong?" And in that moment, she realized this might be the fork in her road. Would she choose freedom, or let her past drag her back? The stakes were high, and the night was thick with tension. She took a deep breath, the choices cascading around her like a whirlwind of light and shadow. Would she confront her past, or forge ahead into the unknown? The night stretched before her, crackling with energy, and uncertainty enveloped her. She had to decide, and quickly. Ethan's concern deepened as he studied Sarah's expression. The liveliness of the crowd faded into a blurred backdrop, her entire world narrowing down to him and the unsettling presence lurking just out of sight. Paul's eyes bore into her, heavy with history, and she felt like a ship caught in a storm, being pulled between two opposing forces. "I thought I was free," she murmured to herself, but Ethan caught the words, his brow furrowing slightly. "Hey, just focus on what's here and now. Just us," he said, a reassuring warmth seeping into his voice, as if trying to erase the darkness that threatened to seep in. "You're right," Sarah replied, shaking her head softly to clear the thoughts swirling inside. She forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, hoping to convince both him and herself. Ethan twirled her once more, their bodies colliding in the sway of the music. Time felt suspended, the vibrant colors of the crowd melting together like a painting left in the rain. "What do you want tonight to be?" His voice was a gentle challenge, teasing her out of her shell. "I want—" She paused, really pondering her desires, grasping at the fleeting shards of opportunity. "I want to break free, to do something different, to feel alive." "There's your answer," he said, a grin lighting up his features. "Let's embrace that. No more looking back." Encouraged, Sarah let her laughter bubble up, the notes mingling with the upbeat rhythm. She held onto Ethan's hands tightly, feeling anchors in his grip, alive in this moment. The sudden surge of courage whispered to her that maybe tonight really could be different. But glancing over Ethan's shoulder, the outline of Paul loomed like a storm cloud hovering ominously. Sarah snapped her gaze back to Ethan, feeling her resolve waver. What if he comes over? Ethan's expression hardened slightly, then softened. "You deserve this, Sarah. He doesn't own your happiness. This is your night. I just—" She hesitated, the weight of vulnerability tingling in her veins. "I don't want the past to ruin this." "Then don't let it." The fierceness in his eyes mirrored her own trembling spirit. "Be here. Be with me." The music shifted, drawing the attention of the dancers, and for a fleeting moment, everything, the shadows, the fears, disappeared. It was just them, a fleeting connection igniting between two souls hungry for joy. Suddenly, the crowd parted once more, revealing Paul striding through like a hawk, fixing on its prey. A sense of panic coursed through Sarah. She instinctively pulled back, the old instincts of self-preservation taking over. Ethan noticed immediately. "Stay," he breathed, grounding her. "Talk to me. Don't let him break this." "Easy for you to say," she shot back, an edge of frustration lacing her tone. Every moment Paul stood closer twisted the knot in her stomach tighter. "Sarah," Paul called out, his voice cutting through the air with authority. There was a possessiveness that made her flinch, memories flooding back of arguments and hurtful words. "What do you want?" Her voice trembled, but she stood firm, grounding herself in Ethan's presence. He shifted protectively, yet the air crackled with tension. The crowd shifted, eyes darting between the three of them, as if preparing for a storm. "Just talk. We need to settle this," Paul insisted, almost pleading. "No," she shot back, the rejection bursting forth like an unexpected fire. "I'm done talking, done making excuses for your behavior. This is my time." The realization of that fierce declaration shook her, but it also empowered her. She looked into Ethan's eyes and saw encouragement. Paul's expression darkened. "You think you can just walk away?" Suddenly, a sense of clarity washed over her. This was the moment, a fight for her freedom, for her future. "Yes, I do. I'm not yours anymore." The crowd hushed, all attention now captured. Would Paul push forward, or would he back down? Ethan, steady beside her, whispered, "No matter what happens, I'm here." And that sense of hope clung to Sarah's heart, but the tension hung thick in the air. This moment would change everything, but would she emerge stronger or shattered? "Sarah," Paul's voice turned icy, what came next could reshape her future entirely. Would she have the strength to face what lay ahead? The music faded into a dull throb, drowning beneath the weight of Paul's looming presence. Sarah's heart raced, each beat a reminder of everything she truly wanted to escape from. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a wild cocktail of emotions stirred inside her: fear, anger, and an undeniable energy that demanded to break free. "Sarah, let's not do this here," Paul pressed, his voice a mix of frustration and desperation. He took a step closer, aiming for a softness that felt more like a grip. "We can talk somewhere private. You don't want to make a scene." "No!" The word splashed like cold water, shocking even her. "We're not having that conversation anymore. I'm not yours to negotiate with." She held her ground, her body tense but unwavering, bolstered by Ethan's steady presence at her side. Paul's jaw clenched. "You're being naive. You think you can just leave it all behind? This isn't a game." Sarah saw the movement in the crowd, notes of tension rippling through them. Whispers curled around her like ribbons of smoke. She felt a rush of adrenaline, fueled by the realization that this was her choice, her moment to stand firm against everything she had suffered. "I'm not naive," she spat back, forcing herself to remember the woman she was transforming into. "I'm finally choosing myself." Ethan squeezed her hand, grounding her amidst the storm. Just a gentle press, but it anchored her, reminding her of the laughter they had shared, the rhythm of life that pulsed around them. As she looked into Paul's darkening eyes, Sarah saw the past, the anger, the control, the manipulation. It flickered in and out like a broken film, and standing beside her was someone who represented hope, possibility, and laughter. "Just leave me alone," she said, sharper this time. "I deserve better than what you've given me, a life lived in your shadow." At that moment, the music shifted again, rising to a crescendo, and it was as if the entire crowd inhaled in unison. Paul's face twisted into a mask of disbelief and rage. "You'll regret this, Sarah. You won't get away from me that easily. I will find you." "Not if I have anything to do with it," Ethan interjected, taking a protective step in front of Sarah, planting himself firmly as a barrier. The atmosphere charged, reflecting the electricity of her heart. This was it. She could run back to the darkness, allowing Paul to wrap her in chains again, or she could break free and leap into the unknown. With every ounce of courage, Sarah took a deep breath and shouted, "I'm done! I'm finally free!" A wave of gasps echoed through the crowd, and her declaration surged into the air, bursting like fireworks. Ethan looked at her with a mix of admiration and pride, his eyes shining bright, as if he understood the monumental leap she had just taken. Paul loomed, his expression a blend of anger and disbelief, but in the face of her defiance, even his presence felt small. With a final glare, he turned and stormed away, leaving a void and a rush of exhilaration in his wake. The crowd began to cheer, the tension melting into celebration. "Wow," Ethan breathed, his eyes widening, delight spreading across his face. "You were incredible." "I didn't think I'd ever say that," she smiled, her heart now bursting with elation. "But maybe I really can start anew." Ethan leaned closer. "You can, Sarah. You're stronger than you think." The celebratory pulsations of the music surged back around them, drawing the crowd back into its embrace. Sarah felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted, giving room for possibility. But in the back of her mind, a lingering question tugged at her. What would she do next? Would the aftermath of confronting her fear drive her forward or pull her back? Ethan's warm gaze met hers, glimmering with a promise of adventure and maybe something more. She could only wonder what was waiting for her beyond this night. What if the next step could change everything yet again? The night pulsed with a new energy, a buzz of excitement mingling with relief. Sarah felt lighter, freer as the crowd swirled around her. She had faced Paul, and his presence now faded like a wisp of smoke. It was exhilarating, a choice made that resonated deeply within her, a decision to reclaim her life and her own happiness. "Let's dance," Ethan said, grabbing her hand before she could second-guess herself. His smile held promise and hope, and she found herself drawn in, the lingering weight of her past dissolving under the vibrant glow of the night. They moved together, laughter bubbling forth, the music wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Each step felt like freedom. As they danced, Sarah's earlier fears receded, replaced by joyous anticipation for the moments to come. It was strange, new, electric. With Ethan, she didn't just feel seen, she felt cherished. "See?" His voice was a soft whisper against the rhythm of the tune. "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." She looked up at him, taking in his energy, the way he moved, the kindness in his eyes. "How did you get so wise?" she teased playfully. "Years of navigating my own storms," he replied, his tone serious yet warm. "I've learned that life's about taking those moments to breathe, to break free." "Tonight is me breaking free," she declared, her heart swelling with newfound courage. "I can't let my past define who I am anymore." "Good," he grinned, twirling her around, and her laughter soared into the night sky. They kept dancing, lost in a world that felt infinite. The crowd encouraged them, a chorus of delight reverberating through the park. Even the stars overhead seemed more radiant, as if applauding her decision to let go of shadows. As the song faded and another began, Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Want to take a little adventure, anywhere special?" "Adventure sounds perfect," she replied, confidence surging through her. The openness of the evening tugged at her spirit, inviting her into unknown territory. They shared a conspiratorial grin and began to weave through the crowd, laughter spilling out as they headed toward the park's edge. The air freshened, and the cool breeze reminded her that she was alive, that she had just transformed her life. "Let's grab ice cream," Ethan suggested suddenly, his enthusiasm infectious. "Right now?" She raised an eyebrow, amused by his spontaneity. "Why not?" he grinned. "Life is too short to save joy for later. You just redefined your own future, remember? Okay, ice cream it is." The thrill of adventure rippled through her. In that moment, she understood. She was carving her path, one joyful decision at a time. They made their way to the ice cream stand, sharing stories of their favorite flavors, preferences switching from classic vanilla to wild experiments with lavender. Each scoop seemed to hold a piece of laughter, sweet experiences they could now share together. "Cheers to new beginnings," Ethan said, raising his cup toward hers, his eyes sparkling with promise. "Cheers," she replied, the word echoing with a sense of strength. As they wandered through the vibrant streets, sharing bites of ice cream, every laugh and glance forged a bond that felt more genuine than she ever expected. The barrier she had built began to crack and fall away, revealing her true self. When they found a quiet spot by the lake, the moonlight shimmered across the water, casting a magical glow. They sat on a bench, the cool breeze whispering past them. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" she asked, turning to face him, tracing the lines of his features in the soft light. "Every moment," he said softly, "but I find that the best adventures happen when we're just brave enough to take the first step." His words hung in the air thick with meaning. "I don't know what that looks like for us," she admitted, the vulnerability creeping in, "but I know I don't want to waste another moment in fear." "Then we'll find it together," Ethan assured her, a gaze as warm and steady as the sun rising on a new day. No pressure, just possibilities. As the night wore on, they shared more than just stories and laughs. They shared dreams, hopes, and unspoken wishes that glimmered like stars overhead. The promise of new horizons stretched out before them like a vast open sky. Feeling unguarded, Sarah thought back to the battle she had fought. Paul, a testament to how far she had come. Would she commit to exploring this new chapter, despite the questions swirling in the back of her mind? Yes! A bold determination surged through her. This was her moment. The turbulence of her past was simply fuel for the fire of her present. As they strolled hand in hand back toward the heart of the city, she let her heart guide her. With every step forward, she felt a commitment to herself, to embracing joy, to daring risk, to living life fully. "I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings," Ethan said, and she knew she was ready to dive headfirst into whatever awaited them. "Me too," she said, her heart racing effortlessly toward the future. Together, they would walk into the unknown. That night was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now to dive deeper into the next chapter of this enchanting journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love for these stories. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending and what you think lies ahead. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to support the channel and keep the magic alive.